So I think we have set the stage for to bring in all our distinguished chief technology officers who will come and share with us their perspective on how to unlock that value. So I'm delighted that all the chief technology guys are here. Let me invite them one by one. We have Dheeraj Sharma, who is the Senior VP Networks with Reliance Jio. We have Anchik Azizi Hadi, who is the COO with Telecom Malaysia from Malaysia here. We have Rashim Kapoor, who is the head of networks with Airtel. And we have James. Figure James is joining us from the US late in the evening for you, James. Welcome. So thank you very much for joining us. I think maybe this is a great time for us to do a quick poll. There is so much opportunity that telecom companies have. The key is where can they prioritize, where can they execute? And one of the biggest transformation as far as the telecom company is concerned is the ability to have a common underlying IT and network infrastructure. How far away are telecom companies from this vision? So the question to all of you who are attending today is your organization likely to have a common underlying IT and network infrastructure by 2023? I know it's a very aggressive timeline, but nevertheless, I wanted to be a little provocatively challenging. So I'm keen to hear your views. So if you can take that quick poll question, and I think it will give our panelists something to chew about and talk about. So can we have the results of the poll, please? Yeah. Excellent. Oh, it seems a overwhelming majority feel this is likely. So I will get our distinguished panelists to comment. If that future is really that close, and if we can execute on that. So I thought for this session, the way we could do it is since we have four such distinguished people with four different backgrounds. Anchik Azizi from traditionally a fixed network background. Welcome. Good morning. Great to have you here from Malaysia. We have Rashim. Rashim is stepping in for Randeep. Randeep unfortunately couldn't join in. Thank you very much, Rashim, for stepping in at such short notice. Welcome. And Dheeraj is, I think, dialing in here from Mumbai. So welcome, Dheeraj, as well. So what I thought is maybe we do a quick rapid fire, and a rapid fire so that we can get a very comprehensive view across a range of issues that as leaders, each of you are dealing with. James, you can address this from the perspective as to how you see operators responding to it rather than you as an operator. And I do understand, I must say that some of these questions, I've tried to be very specific. You as operators may or may not be able to disclose some information. You have statutory obligations in your respective countries that you operate in. So feel free to respond to the best of your ability and what regulations permit you to. So the first question, which was also our initial question that I asked all the panelists, all the audience members, about a common underlying infrastructure for network and IT. So what percentage of the network will be on the cloud, let's say by a timeline of 2023? So you want to go first, Rashim?
Yeah, so at Airtel, if you see, we started our journey with the vertical cloud. I'm very proud to say that Airtel hosts one of the world's biggest voice VoLTE network on cloud. And it is totally on the horizontal stack. As we speak, most of the 4G workloads are already on cloud, and all our tool infrastructure is already on the cloud.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Dheeraj?
So Manoj, in terms of the cloud, when we see the two parts, one is the 4G networks, and then the upcoming the 5G networks. When we see the 5G networks, we are going to be 100% on the cloud, including our core and also the IT part of the network, including the next generation OSS and AI ML enabled OSS operating systems. And that is something which is going to be everything on the cloud. And when we talk about the legacy network or the old network in the 4G, where most of the stacks are now moving to the cloud native platform, and they are moved. And the OSS stacks, some of the things which are not supporting the cloud native are being replaced with the open source or the cloud native. So you can see pretty well the entire telecoms are going to the cloud. And I think Geo being a very modern network, because only 4 years, 5 years of the existence of the network. So we had an opportunity to move everything on the cloud from the day one. And that's the advantage, and that's the things we are leveraging for even for the 5G also, so that we are having a better readiness for the 5G, and we have to do a very less forklifting or the uplifting and for the existing networks.
Excellent. Thank you, Dheeraj. And Sheikh Azizi?
Well, the short answer is yes. We are going through the journey. We are actually upgrading and migrating our both BSS and OSS into cloud. And we have ongoing RFP actually for our telco cloud, intended for both fixed and mobile. So, well, if you ask me what will be in 2023, I would say around 80 to 90%, because we have started the journey. We'll go through transformation and go through the migration in the next 2 to 3 years.
Excellent. James, how do you see the landscape, maybe from a global perspective? Do you see markets around the world?
Yeah, I will not argue against my fellow panelists here. This is the trend that we are seeing globally. In fact, we actually just did a study with about 1,500 customers. Obviously, this is enterprise and the telco segment, but we're seeing cloud deployments almost on par and parity now with on-premise deployments. So it's made a massive growth, and obviously this past year, I think has actually accelerated a lot of these concepts of common infrastructure to a cloud platform.
Excellent. Thank you. I encourage the audience, feel free to put in your chat and respond in the chat. You can go to the Q&A section. You can put some questions in Q&A, and we will get, it's rare that we get such leaders who run such big networks. We have Airtel and Jio each running with over 300-400 million customers each, and then Telecom Malaysia, a dominant company in Malaysia. So feel free to put your questions, and we'll try our best to try and get you some responses. The next question was 5G and potential impact to the business. Let's say, I know in the long term, yes, there will be a lot of impact, but if you were to say 2023, is it possible to put some number to it? Rashim?
I think number would be too early to say. In India, that 5G auction would happen by end of this year, most probably. We have already started our trials, both field trials and the lab trials. But I believe personally that it will bring lot of new revenue streams and the new applications. So right now, 4G gives a speed which is okay for a normal kind of a browsing and say a SD kind of a video. So this will enhance mobile broadband powered by low latency. So it will increase the consumption of the customers, and maybe it should have a good impact on the revenues. It will bring new services like virtual reality. A lot of gaming services are not launched into India because we don't have a 5G network. One of the example would be say Google Stadia kind of application. So they would provide more services to the user. Then 5G will also become an alternative to fiber. So fixed wireless access would be one of the big use cases of 5G. And then there will be a lot of use cases which will come from the industries of mining, hospitals, electrical companies, education institutes, where the 5G would play a really good role.
Excellent. Thank you. Dheeraj?
Yeah, I agree with Shim. So the opportunity which are there right now, at least in India, because there are many places we are not able to reach with the fixed broadband. So the enhanced mobility broadband is one of the great opportunity which we are going to see with the 5G. And in the Geo, what we are seeing, because we are now we are ready, not only for the trial, even for the commercial deployment, and it is already started. And I'm thinking all the networks which are in the backhaul side and all, they're already expanded to take care of the 5G additional capacity management. And plus our own innovation in the 5G RAN side, and plus the next generation, the OSS, BSS, which is going to be a major differentiator. And that's is ready now. So, and we soon will be able to launch and then able to take advantage of this. And on top of that, the area which is untapped is the enterprise market, and with 5G giving a network pricing and giving a differentiated services, I think that's another market which will be a big differentiator in terms of the bringing additional revenue, which has been not catered to with the 4G.
Excellent. And Azizi, you
Well,
are in a unique position.
yeah. Interestingly, we have a very special situation here in Malaysia. About 10 days ago, the government announced the My Digital Framework, and 5G is one of the 4 pillars that announced by the Prime Minister. And the 5G network will be rolled out by the SPV that belongs to the government. And I believe this is healthy because the service providers now can compete at the retail end, especially for telecom ratio. We are actually serving a full spectrum of users in Malaysia. Unlike the most of the mobile operators, they are serving the individual, the consumer segment. But telecom Malaysia, we are serving the household, the SMEs, the government, and also the large enterprise. So with 5G, that would enable us actually to do things like vertical solution for enterprises, for government sector, and also for the SMEs. So we actually very encouraged and excited with this development, and Telecom Malaysia will be playing a big role in terms of supplying and also buying capacity from this SPV in order for us actually to offer the complete solution for the various segments that we are serving in Malaysia.
Correct. Excellent. James, global perspective, we have seen good growth in 5G in China and in Korea as well. What is the global perspective you see maybe in the US and other markets?
Yeah, in the U.S., it's pretty aggressive. We obviously have a smaller group of really large carriers, and it's heavy investment, a lot of marketing, a lot of use case creation. One of the things that we're seeing pop up, and this was mentioned, is industry and agriculture. We recently participated with the 5G Open Innovation Labs around helping farmers with sustainable crops, essentially trying to recover from the pandemic. And I think those are the use cases that we'll see drive a lot of this technology. Because I think the other thing is that the end users, the consumers, the general public, they feel more educated around 5G. And so when we discuss what can be done with 4G versus 5G, the conversations around 5G and IoT actually flow more naturally, especially with the enterprise customers. I think from a global deployment perspective outside of the US, we see a lot of the spectrum auctions are ongoing. I observe personally just a pause in a lot of projects this past year, but now they are really starting to ramp up with aggressive radio deployments and edge deployments.
Excellent. Okay, great. The next question is, can the build out, how important will cloud native be to successful rollout of a telco cloud? Dheeraj, go ahead. Ashim, go ahead. We'll change the sequence in the next run.
Yeah, so I would say cloud native would be a total necessity in a 5G domain. So in an NFA world, there is a certain amount of automation and resource optimization has happened. But cloud native will provide the service software upgrade, inline service software upgrade. Then the microservices based application would help us in independent scaling. Then cloud native would also enable 5G network slicing. So if we have to do a 5G network slicing, the cloud native is a must. Then seeing the geography like India, I guess India would at least require 300 to 400 data centers when we go for 5G SA. And then it requires a very, very efficient utilization of the hardware. So cloud native, which is a bare metal cloud native, would be required for the edge clouds, which would be say at least 300 data centers in India.
Okay. And has something changed in our opinion, this entire discussion around cloud native in the last 12 months? Would you have had the same answer 12 months ago, Rashim?
So We had the same answer around say 2 years ago, but the difference which has happened is now the applications have also become matured and they are supporting on cloud native. Earlier, the roadmaps of the application service providers were not intact, so that part has changed. Cloud native for the telco workloads has become more matured. More and more operators have started deploying this. If you see IT side of it adopted it faster, the network side of it, even the NFI was adopted in last 2-3 years, and so that is the journey which the telco workloads were taking. Now, because the applications are ready, now it's the right time to start migrations on cloud native.
Correct. Dheeraj?
Yeah, Manoj. So if you see now we see all the core are converged and they're virtualized, and we see all the virtual network function and the containerized network functions on this telco cloud. And because now it's a multi-service cloud, and everything is becoming open and virtualized, so the agility and the flexibility to introduce a new service, and also balancing of the workloads, because the things are becoming very dynamic, and the flexibility which is bringing towards managing the workloads across the network. And I think that's the one which is giving a big push for the putting everything on the cloud. And any new deployment which is happening, I think there's a zero custom deployment, everything on the codes, and moving to the eventually to the SaaS and the open source framework.
There is one of the questions which has come from the audience, which is, in case of Airtel and Jio, is it public cloud or private cloud where you have deployed the network part? And in case of BSS, is it public or private cloud?
So right now, I think the answer is as a telco workload, because there are many regulatory restrictions are there. Yeah. So even if we want to do everything on the public cloud or eventually to the public cloud, which gives a good advantage in terms of the hyperscale and all. But considering the regulatory requirement, where we have the data, where we run the data, where we store the data, and where we security part of that, and plus also a lot of things are in the view of the regulatory and our own interest on security. So I think all these telco workloads are there in our private cloud. But when we see the IT and adjacent services which are going to become it is happening now, there I think the collaborative application and things are moving to the public cloud. So I think it's a balance of the things, and what can be done which has to be done in the private cloud because of many regulatory aspects.
Correct. Rashim, you concur with that? Is this
yeah. So I agree with Dheeraj because of some regulatory concerns, and also some of the issues regarding security and compliances. All the workloads are on the private cloud. We have got some small installations on the public cloud, but those are more of the broadcast kind of applications, not the telco workloads or OSS services.
Correct. Azizi, you want to say cloud native for successful rollout of your telco cloud?
Well, let me chip in to the last question. I mean, we had this debate between private and public cloud for our telco cloud. I think on the top of regulation of and other things and so on, we also understand that the requirements in terms of processing power and latency are very stringent in telco cloud. So we decided that because we already set up our public cloud, we also have private cloud for our enterprise use. And when we look into telco cloud, actually, it is so much higher than our enterprise cloud requirement. So it will be a bit private, but specialized. We call it today specialized. Probably platform to support the processing power, the requirements, and latency that we require, and so on. So to us in Telecom Malaysia, we already have our public cloud offering. We have our private cloud for our internal use. We are tendering the telco cloud to be integrated with our cloud platform. And fortunately, as part of the announcement made by the government 10 days ago, Telecom Malaysia is actually one of the CSPs. We are the only local company nominated as the CSPs on the top of 3 global giant CSPs. So with the intent probably to serve some of the data governance requirements within government of Malaysia.
Correct. Yeah, James.
Yeah, I actually have comments on both, on the original question and where we've started discussing here. So, the concept of cloud native, what we're seeing is, and when we're helping customers through, is not everything actually is best to be containerized, and I think as an industry we have to be a little bit careful. In my former life before I joined F5, I actually worked for a carrier, and we were very early on adopting NFV, and what we quickly realized was that we had it in our minds like everything must be virtual, and you quickly realize not everything must be virtual. And so what we're helping customers with now is like there must be a pragmatic approach to what works in a container and what does not work in a container. And if you find yourself sacrificing too much just to say it's in a container, it's probably too soon. And so I think finding the balance is probably the most important thing. However, in saying that, I also am saying that Edge and private telco cloud is probably one of the most important things that we're seeing our customers do at this point, because it helps with their operational efficiencies, both in terms of people and money, and also speed to service. And so obviously you want containers, you want to get there to achieve all these business objectives, but you also want to make sure that the architectures are still at the same levels that we've all grown to expect out of our service provider environments. The requirements, I think we were talking about, the requirements of the telco infrastructure are extremely high, and public cloud infrastructures in general weren't built for telco workloads. And so these telco and private clouds are being purpose built for telco type workloads, and they're very different.
Correct. And James, maybe we continue with you and we go reverse for the next couple of questions before we get to some broader discussions on. So can the build out of service provider edge be used to capture parts of the user edge and the internet edge?
100%, yes. I believe so. I'm a firm believer that one of the greatest assets that the telcos have is their footprint and their infrastructure. And so proximity to the end user, whatever, whether that's a machine or a person or a campus, that is one of the greatest assets. And so by building out these edge platforms and using them truly as a multi-purpose, multi-tenant platform, you start achieving the business objectives that, candidly, I think we've all been dreaming about for a while with virtualization. And so what you'll see, at least from me and my team, is we are all in on that belief. I think it makes a lot of sense. And candidly, the public cloud companies themselves have proven that it's a working model. We just now need to apply that same type of discipline into the telco environment.
Yeah, and Zizi, and you can also comment on how much do you think edge data centers will be part of your total mix, let's say by 2023 or so, or is that too aggressive a timeline?
Well, we realize that is a very important component for us to succeed in future. Services. We have actually reserved 250 of our exchanges. This is telco environment exchanges. So today we're only occupying about 20% of these exchanges due to some equipment that we have replaced, upgraded, and so on. So we used to have 850 exchanges, but we have reserved 250 of them actually to convert and retrofit them to become our edge data center to serve this for the purpose of edge cloud for the next 3 years.
Excellent. Dheeraj?
My view is we are seeing great changes in the industry in the last decade. So I think all the on-prem equipments, people are moving to the clouds, which are centralized clouds, because to minimize the OPEX and come out of the hassles of managing each and every application. And now we are seeing, because now that is increasing the latency and some of the controls. So now the clouds are moving to the on-prem. So I think, or toward the edge side. So if you see the the application, the everything moving to the smart, whether it's a smart campus or it's a smart industry or is it industry 4.0 or smart buildings, and all the things require the processing, computing, and everything on the edge for the better experience and for the low latency applications and for the immersive video applications. And I think the workloads will push the clouds moving toward the edge now. And being the operator, I think you have correctly said, having a wider footprint is going to give an advantage. And but how much of that mobile the edge will move to the I'm thinking really will happen by 2023. It will all decide on be based on the business and the workloads and the requirement which is coming from the private LT or the private deployments of the cloud.
Correct. And do you see, just as a follow-up, because the hyperscalers seem to be running away with the overall public cloud market globally. And so do you think that in the edge space, you have a better chance, or you have a better chance to partner to support them, because the rollout of the edge for them may not happen as rapidly, and therefore you as a telecom provider will have a bigger role to play in the edge as compared to the the general public cloud market? Is that an underlying assumption?
Yeah, I think let's see that over a period of time whether it's going to be hybrid or it is the only telco space. But yes, now the clouds coming in the plug and play mode. So I'm sure, and the scalability point of view and footprint is available. So I think will not be a challenge for the telco to move from the hundreds to the thousands, which is going to be a 10x requirement of the device.
Rashim?
Yeah, so my view is that right now in the 4G area, there are two-layer architecture. So all the centralized applications which are signaling intensive applications are centralized, which are hosted by majority of the operators on the regional data centers. The applications which are more carrying a user traffic like packet core payload or a voice payload are decentralized, and they would be, say, one or two locations in a province. So this is how the architecture was in the 4G era. In the 5G area, I think this service provider edge cloud and the user edge and internet edge all will complement each other. What will happen is there will be two type of edge. One edge would be a captive edge, which will be, say, in the enterprise itself, which would be a private network for them. And then there will be an edge which will be hosted at the operator end, which would be complemented by more enhanced services on content, AR, VR. And internet would be a basic services which would continue as it is continuing on the 4G side.
Excellent. Thank you. So, we did a fair bit of discussions on these now. As we look at it, we see, look at other industries, be it the banks, etc. They all seem to view their technology teams as being very core teams to them. And, their banks are saying, oh, we are more technology companies. Are we seeing, as technology leaders, are you bringing more capabilities in-house? Are you trying to, you see that as a differentiator to help build out? I know Reliance themselves have some plans to build their own technology stack. So I'm very keen to hear, how do you see the build out of your respective technology teams happening over a period of time? And do you see a distinct shift that you are likely to make, or the industry is likely to make? Should we start with you, Rashim?
Yeah, so Airtel started their R&D center in Bangalore around 3 years back, where we are not only developing the 4G part, but we are also working on equipments on home broadband, IoT, and then other wireless products. Our aim is to locally produce the equipments through a way of, say, a contract manufacturing. Airtel always view has been to co-work. So we would be co-working with our technology partners to develop India-specific hardware and software, which would be easy to deploy in India. So the task of the R&D center is to develop the products on home broadband, IoT, 5G by co-working with different partners.
Anshik Azizi, you don't have the scale of operating in a market like India. You are in a unique position with about 30 million potential customers. How does that change for you?
I think the approach that we are taking we have three broad segments that we are serving. We believe that the biggest opportunity will come from the enterprise government in terms of vertical solution and so on. So what we had done the last few years, we started at the end of 2017, is to verticalize our go-to-market in our enterprise segment and start working with the customers, understand their needs. At the same time, try to understand what is the gap in the organization. If you look at from end to end, from going to customer, understanding the needs, and so on, having the right solution. As much as we want to build in-house capabilities, we know that we don't have the runway to do it. We don't have the resources to do it. So what we did actually, look at the end-to-end ecosystem, the value chain, and identify the gaps, and ask ourselves which one we want to do on our own, which one that we want to partner. I mean, partnership can come in two flavors. For example, if the solutions are available in the market, we can have these people to work with us to create the end solution. But there are also opportunities for M&A where we can acquire some smaller companies to fill in the gap in the value chain. So this is something that we continue to do. I think Dato' Izzadin mentioned just now, ecosystem, partnership. And this is important for, I believe, for all telecom providers or telcos moving forward, because we are good in connectivity, but in areas that we are going to, there are gaps. I believe we are not able to do everything, and having good partners will actually help us to accelerate our go-to-market.
Excellent. Dheeraj, very keen to hear how is Reliance viewing the technology development. Are you bringing more capabilities in-house? You also, I know there is an ambitious plan to even develop your own 5G solutions.
So Manoj, I think the innovation and the R&D has been a fundamental pillar of the Reliance Jio from the day zero, and even before the 4G launch was started. So be it in a hand space, be it in the mobile broadband or in the fixed broadband, the devices side, RAN side, that's the one area which is right now which is evolved and matured over a period of time. And the second part of the thing which is accelerated in the last couple of years is the OSS, BSS, and the IT piece of the development, and having a in-house development, giving a great flexibility to move to the cloud native platforms, move to the open source stacks, and coming out of the clutches of some of the OEMs, where the time to market or time to introduce new services is in quarters, and which you can do now in weeks. So that's to bring that agility and to bring a better customer experience and having a better monetization capabilities on the new services. I think that's the area where I think the Alliance has developed the whole team over a period of years. So one is the network side, other is the IT part and all. And now going beyond telco, becoming a company like internet companies or Googles of the world and all. So if you have to compete and meet and go in that direction, then I think the agility required, flexibility required, and I think it's a need of the art to build this the competency and the skill set in the organization, and that only can take to the company beyond connectivity and getting into the IT, ICT space, and then add the revenue in the market.
Correct. James, how do you see that development happening around the world?
Yeah, honestly, it actually depends on the geography and the competitive landscape of the company. I believe my fellow panelists here have actually captured it pretty well. That's the majority of what we see. I firmly do believe that the innovation does come from customers. As vendors, we have the luxury of being able to aggregate a lot of stories together and create new and interesting products to help solve problems. But the problems get presented to us by conversations with the customers, and I think you're seeing a lot of that with the conversations like ORAN, right? You go back through history and you see all of these different organizations and groups and projects fire up. It's because there was a need, and there was a collective need across the industry. And so I do see a lot of it. I do think the talent acquisition, Manoj, you kind of mentioned the banks really doubling down on tech and talent. I believe I'm starting to see an influx of that, and we see that with our customers, especially as they're looking for edge and cloud and virtualization expertise, container expertise. And so I think it's exciting times ahead of us to see the innovation that comes out of these companies.
James, just to continue that, so as we see the transformation to a common infrastructure or the building out of a distributed cloud, so how is the journey that you see operators are doing around the world? And maybe then we can quickly get that opinion from others, and then take a few questions more from the audience.
How do I see the innovation of just the infrastructure and IT coming together? Or
yes,
yeah,
and how? Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually, it's exciting. In my past life, at one point I had responsibility for some of the IT, BSS and OSS, and then another part of my life I had network architecture and infrastructure and metro architecture, and we never got along as the two separate teams. But now what I'm seeing is, as the technologies are converging, as enterprises and network infrastructure are really more focused on applications, security, API constructs, and microservices, we really do see a combination coming together. And you actually see that and a lot of organizations are now starting to bring their leadership together, where your IT teams and your network teams are actually within the same groups and same departments. And I think that's actually also an extremely powerful thing. So from my perspective, it's nothing but excitement, because you have some of the best networking minds in the world that can solve all of the underlying infrastructure challenges. Then you have some of the best application-minded people in the world working together and taking advantage of this newfound infrastructure.
How quickly is that really happening, Dheeraj, on the ground? Is it as easy as James makes it sound?
I think that's the reality, and we try to take the reference of our own journeys. So I think maybe 10 years back, we used to spend 80% of time in the telecom side and maybe 20% of the OSS, BSS, IT part there. So because the teams used to be different teams and specialized teams, but now I see that the last 10-year journey, now we spend maybe 20% time on the network side and 80% time on the IT, application, cloud, software, and OSS, BSS. And the teams work very, very well together. And any as Hampton, that's the transformation which has happened. And now the bridge is no more bridge there, and all the teams work together, because there is no way you can roll out any services, because everything is having a I'm saying the digital engagement. So unless and until you see the entire thing with a zero-touch provisioning, zero-touch configuration, then zero-touch assurance, and the journey is not complete. And all the journeys are around the IT and the OSS BSS side.
Correct. Rashim, I'm sure you almost you would agree, and maybe take that step further. So how does it change the way you hire people now, and the kind of people you are hiring? Because I'm sure you are approaching it in a similar way.
Yeah, it is not only hiring. It is the first task is how to upskill your existing manpower. So digital mindset is part of our core strategy and part of our DNA now. So few steps which we have taken is that, for example, simple things, if there is an alarm which comes, it should not be seen by a human being. The ticket should get automatically generated. If a fault comes once, second time it should get auto healed. So there are some few baby steps we started taking, started building on that, and now we are in a journey where we want to see a network as a single pane of glass. We need to do most of the tasks which should be without touching the network. Software defined, even from the radio side, the software defined radios and the software optimization of the radios. So as Dheeraj said, maximum time which was going into maintaining the network by the operational team is now how to think and start digitizing the operations and self-healing and working on the self-healing of the network and self-optimization of the network.
Correct. And yeah, exactly. So there's a nice question from Peter, and others can also comment on this. How will you really differentiate? The move to cloud, I think you guys have established beyond doubt, and maybe to the surprise of many people, because while India and some markets are mature and they have the scale to drive this, maybe other markets will take slightly longer to do it. So the drive towards cloud for all service providers is clear. Will be interesting to hear how will you really differentiate yourself, particularly from the hyperscalers in your local market, other than the privacy and the local governance requirements, which may bring, let's say, certain specific government or other stakeholders to your cloud. What is the other differentiation that you see bringing to the market? Anybody can go first. Yeah.
Well, I'll very interesting. Let me take this out.
Yeah.
We have the global CSP coming, the three giant. So we are a local CSP. There are a few ways of doing it. I think data governance is one. Data sovereignty is I think that is the most important one. It is on our side. We should take advantage of it. I think the relationship. We have relationship directly with customers, whereas the global CSP will have to rely on local MSP to serve the customers here in Malaysia, like, for example. So, these are just two quick examples that we have, but I think these are two very powerful levers that we can pull to win the market here locally.
Okay. Rashim?
I think if I have to pick up one of the biggest use case, edge would be a key differentiator. That would be a blend of enriched communication, infrastructure, and the service. So that would be a key differentiator where operator will be able to give a better connectivity and better service, and SaaS would become a more reality when it comes to edge cloud. And that power would be with the operator, and that would be the key difference.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. Dheeraj, you want to comment anything?
Yeah. So my viewpoint is because when we see the customer, so customer wants to having a single contact or single shop or single point of contact for meeting their connectivity and the IT requirements largely. From that point of view, see the connectivity is there, which is fundamental to give a good experience even for the IT part also. Without having a good connectivity, good availability, and also a good coverage, and which is basically going to touch all the masses, all the people in the organization. So that is fundamental. The missing part which is there, how do we bridge this telco and the IT ICT gap? So that is how I think the transformation is happening. So the cloud marketplace which is there, where the customer as a single customer is able to have the connectivity, plus also able to get the services, software as a service, device as a service. And then the telcos are having a collaborative framework with the public clouds or the application software providers, and then able to give a single shop or single point of contact for all their needs.
So I see that, especially the operators in India again have really making aggressive moves into adjacencies. Adjacent markets, be it e-commerce or payments or entertainment, content, etc. So how does that change your role in your companies? How are you viewing the build out of your network? How are you supporting that and driving that differently moving ahead? Very keen to hear, including from Enchika Zizi as well. Does that change fundamentally? Yes, I think the cloud is one of the biggest enablers to it. Other than that, what are the big differences that you are seeing in the way you are approaching this?
Let me try this. Because we engage with our customers, the three segment and so on. So I think the network is changing, the quality is changing, the devices that we supply to houses or premises are also changing. But importantly, there are other things that we need to do actually to serve and to address this need. One big area that we are looking at is actually platform. platform is similar to network. You have one network that you can serve multiple segment, multiple customers by changing the access, the network, the access part of network. Similarly, I mean, having platform is about a very powerful what we call tool that we have moving forward. Just imagine we have a platform to do smart traffic light. The same platform actually, by changing probably the AI algorithm, we can do things like monitoring generators, remote generators, monitoring fishing or ponds and so on. So, I mean, these are things that we are working on. Some already available. We already showcased this about 2 years ago, but we are fine-tuning because customers are more smarter today. They understand IoT, they understand solution, vertical solution, and so on. So customers are more demanding, they are smarter. So we have to continuously actually improve what we have by working closely with them, by understanding their needs. Just what James mentioned just now. I mean, James worked with the industry on O-RAN and so on. Similarly, for us, we need to work with our customers to make things happen for them.
Correct. A quick comment, Rashim, Dheeraj?
Yeah, so I will try this. So the thing which has been particularly changed in Airtel right now, earlier we were thinking that we should have a best network. Now we work that we should have a best gaming experience or we should have a best video experience. And then we took up some key tasks for our digital journey. As an example, there are a lot of fraud which happen on the financial side. And with Airtel Bank, we launched Airtel Secure Pay, which is a network-initiated security mechanism to give more security to the customers. Then we took an initiative to give a cleaner pipe to our fixed broadband customer by enhancing more security on that pipe. So that is a mindset change which is happening, thinking more about the customer, their pains, whether it is related to frauds or their experience, and then working on that.
Fascinating. A great answer. Thank you very much, Rashid. Interesting. Yeah. Dheeraj?
Yeah, I think we pursue the adjacent market for two reasons. One is a lot of requirements are coming because then you having various cohorts are there, enterprise cohorts are there, and each cohort is having a very different requirements are there. So subscription as a service, device as a service, bundling of the things which are beyond the connectivity plus devices plus the apps and the software. I think that's what is now coming up, and because each customer is having a different requirement, now that flexibility, subscription as a service for each of the bundle, and putting any product into the bundle based on the customer requirement. I think there's a great opportunity not only from having some advantage we bring out of our retail and other business also, and also with whatever the various partners are there. So our own group companies, then the partners, and then able to give the customer a better experience so that they only have to deal with the one provider for all their requirements. I think that's where we are trying to address this.
Excellent. Thank you. James, I want to allow you to make any concluding remarks on this topic, and then I will summarize this session.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to my fellow panelists here. This has actually been pretty interesting and fun. A fun way for me to spend my evening since I'm here in the U.S. I would just add on to something that we said. We're talking about how do the carriers and the telcos compete when the cloud dust settles. I think every answer was spot on. But one thing I'm really proud of being part of this industry is, for the past year, we've obviously as a society, we've been through a lot. And when the world shifted, the way work got done and people needed to stay home to be safe, the telcos were there. We largely did not miss a beat. We were able to deliver, communications to our friends and family and keep business going. And as much as people like to think that we're slow and that we don't necessarily innovate as fast as other companies, the reality is that the industry is very good at being extremely reliable and growing with what needs to be done to serve people. And I think that's something that we should be proud of and we should build upon. And I see things like edge and cloud and 5G as platforms that actually accelerate what we've learned about ourselves over this past year. So thank you. I'll stop there. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, James. I'll bring you back towards the end of the session to wrap it up. And I think personally, it has been a huge learning for me, right from the enthusiasm shown towards moving towards the cloud very rapidly. I think, and I thought it was Rashim who mentioned that so much has got matured in availability of solutions, and that is why we see this very encouraging positive response. The second key takeaway was, I think it was Inchik Aziz, you said, hey, we have to view ourselves as a platform rather than as a network. And the conversation that Rashim and Dheeraj brought, saying, hey, we have to enable the experience. I'm not building the best network. I'm enabling and curating the best experience for the customer. And maybe Edge is a very powerful value proposition and a differentiated proposition for every telco in the world to enable that experience. So I think those are the two big takeaways. Obviously, they shared a lot of other interesting things about building in-house teams, and we did go through in a very rapid fire manner. So thank you very much, Rashim and Chikazizi, Dheeraj, James, for joining and providing us that insight.